The owner of that Bronx daycare where a one-year-old boy died from fentanyl exposure pleaded not guilty to murder charges. Her husband didn't even enter a plea. Remarkably, 3 other children who were also exposed to the deadly drug survived after having to be revived. Law enforcement sources telling us that the owner clearly understood the threat because she removed her own toddler from the daycare out of fear he would succumb to fentanyl exposure. Joining us now for more, our contributor and former NYPD Chief of Detectives, Bob Boyce. First of all, Bob, let's just start off with what do you make about this fentanyl crisis overall? I mean, in New York City, the health commissioner is asking every New Yorker to carry Narcan now. And then if you just Google fentanyl crisis, you see police departments all across the country struggling to figure out what to do and getting quite creative with training and efforts to stop the crisis.
Yeah, well, this has been going on for a while. I think, it first emerged in 2016. We had to retrain the entire New York City Police Department in recognition and handling of fentanyl. So it's been going on for a while, only it's ramping up now. It's not stopping. So we have to do something immediately, get really even tougher. This particular case really shows the dangerous aspect of this drug. You could die from it in several ways: cutaneous absorption, inhalation, ingestion. There's a couple of different ways you can be poisoned by this drug. These folks at this nursery school should have known in this child care, exposing them to this type of drug could put them in dire danger. Additionally, if you look at the timeline after the children became poisoned, they didn't call the police. They didn't call 911. So this goes under acting in depraved indifference, and that's where the murder charge comes from, and it applies fairly quickly too on those 2 points. So this has been going on for a while. We don't have an answer for this. We know where it's coming from. We know how it's getting into the city. Yet it continues. So really a government case on this is necessary, and that's happening in the federal court. You look at in the federal courts, are being charged with narcotics conspiracy, the same people. So they're facing a double-barrel prosecution.
So, Bob, let's talk about how is it getting into the city, and what is it about this drug? Is it the high? Is it the cost? Give us some perspective here of where it's coming from and why it's basically the hottest killer on the market right now.
It is really, it's killing 3 people a day in New York City, even more so about 9 throughout the state. So that's what type of level we're looking at. This is worse than crack in deaths. Crack created a whole storm of crime afterwards, but this is killing people directly. And there's the big thing. It increases the high, and they'll mix it with different drugs. So you really don't know what you're getting if you're taking an illegal drug. You could be taking anything. It used to be just heroin when it started. Now it's gone into other drugs as well. So that's how people are dying. So to get back at where it's coming from Mexico, and we all know it is through the cartels. Every bit of intelligence points to that direction. It's probably being made. It's a synthetic opiate. So it's very cheap to make and very cheap to sell, and that's where it's coming. That's the issue here. So they're mixing it with other drugs and selling it that way because it's cheap to put out, but it's killing their clientele, which absolutely makes no sense at all. We know all these things is coming from labs in China to Mexico and into the United States through the border and coming up in different trucks. It's offloaded outside New York City and brought into smaller vehicles to New York City. In places like this case right here is not commonplace dealers. These are traffickers and have to be treated as such.
Okay, so obviously dealing with the traffickers is one thing, right? Invest in the DEA and those that chase down dealers, and their specialty is getting rid of narcotics on U.S. soil, which we already know is a huge problem and always will be. But is legislation a way to deal with this? I mean, we've talked about it on the federal level, the state level. Now there's talk again about legislation in New York. Would that make a dent? Would legislation actually help?
Kara, it's such a strong question you just asked, because that's what I felt all along. I was hoping you'd ask me that too. So we saw in the 80s, I've been around doing a crack craze. That's where I was a young narco cop in the mid 80s, where things did change in the government to address it. because of the violence of it. This is somewhat different. People are dying from it. So that needs to happen on a federal level, not only the state level. And I'll tell you, the DEA is doing a great job with it, but there's more and more coming in. You're only getting a small portion of it. So this has to be like redouble our efforts, create new legislation. And so when anybody gets caught with fentanyl, the sentencing charges goes up immediately. And that's what has to happen here. It has to be stopped. And public awareness. Narcan is an important way we can stop doing it, but it's not 100%. It's what we're doing after it happens. You have to disrupt these networks where fentanyl is being used to put an end to it. And that's going to create all of law enforcement and also politics as well to get this done.
You're the narco cop. You know what it means to stop the flow and what an impact that can make if you can do it. Bob Boyce, I know we'll be talking about this for a while. I always appreciate your experience and insight. Thanks, Bob.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.